All right, and welcome back to episode 036 of the OK Podcast, powered by the Strength Co. I'm your host, Grant Broggi. It's episode 036. I just turned 36. Who knew how that worked?
I thought you were 36.
Does that mean that when you get older, and I'm not old, I'm young in terms of lifting, but as you get older, when you cross the year, when someone asks you how old you are, you just take 2024 minus 1988. So not in a way to lie.
Yeah.
But when people ask how old I am, I forget.
Yeah.
And so for probably 5 years, I've just gone, it's this year. I was born this year. I'm this old.
Yeah.
I mean, I may have told you I was 36.
You might have.
But I've been in my 36 year for, it feels like, since 2024 started.
36th
Are
year.
we 36 weeks into the podcast? Does that mean that my
happy birthday.
Yeah,
this is your birthday podcast.
Birthday pod, August 26, 1988. I wish. I accept gifts all year long. I dox myself on many platforms. Come find us. But today's date is August 29th in the year of our Lord 2024.
It's my dad's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Japanese dad.
Yes, sir. And Michael Jackson.
Nice. The block height's 858274. While we're giving random shout outs, Jeff Graham, Slack member, turns 51 tomorrow, August 30th. His son turned 20, I believe, maybe 19. I think 19 on my birthday. It's always funny when it's your birthday, you find out other people's birthday. Tanner from Astronomics' mother birthday is August 26th. So a lot of birthdays going on. If you're born this month, you're probably like a tiger or a lion.
I'm a cock.
Or a gamecock. Yeah, something like that. But anyway, we're not here to talk birthdays. Exciting times. PJ got married.
Hey.
And actually, that brings us to a special segment. Every time that people get married from the podcast, we give them a gift. And this gift comes from DJD Woodworks, potential sponsor, friend of BW Tax. He said, I've seen what the podcast has done for BW Tax. I want to do something for you guys. And I hear that you have someone getting married. So he made this woodworking. It's got a little hook on the back.
That is incredible.
You can hang stuff in it. It's recessed.
Oh, man.
Who knows what you can put in there? The people want to see it, not you, PJ.
I want to see it too, man.
But let me shout it out real quick. Give you all his handles and where you can find them.
Absolutely. Let's go straight in my office.
Yeah, so it's on Instagram. It's DJD Woodworks. Woodworker. My shop's located in Simpsonville, South Carolina. Wants to sell out there. It's 864-325-3305. Anyway,
dude, this is a great gift. I've actually looked into like the wooden American flag things.
Yeah.
Like, those look nice.
And now you own one.
Now I have one.
Yeah, now you own one.
I'm putting that straight in my office.
DJD Woodwork, Simpsonville, South Carolina. He wants you to call him by his phone number. He looks like an older gentleman with a dog. He's got a white beard. Looks really joyful. 864-325-3305. He specializes in American flags, furniture, trays, frames, and cutting boards. So,
dude, shout out that guy. What's his name?
David Durbin.
David Durbin. Thank you, David.
So PJ's got some new stuff for the house. And we're going to cover his wedding next week because this week we have a special guest. And I know we didn't talk Bitcoin. We didn't talk about price of Bitcoin.
It's low. What, 59?
I
that.
just unplugged the internet, so it's going to take some time.
Yeah, Bitcoin. You shut Bitcoin off, too.
Just shut Bitcoin down. We'll get it back going later in the show. Let's get the guys on here. All right, the boys are all here. Episode 036 of the OK podcast, powered by the Strength Co. A little different today. We have for the first time a guest in the studio of Upstate, South Carolina. We've had, is it 13 guests, PJ? Yeah, I think it's 13. PJ's off camera, back like it was in episode 1.
It should be. Goodness.
Yeah,
he got married.
He's got married. He's back to the old ball and chain.
Yeah,
he's back off camera. Yeah,
we got him on camera. We got him married. Now, we don't have to worry about getting him a wife anymore. Get him off camera.
Now he's off camera.
One of our listeners married him. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. If you need lifting advice, call Grant. If you need fishing advice, call John. If you need marriage advice, listen to the OK podcast. That's what I always say. All right, so John's the owner of Hare's Ear Fly Fishing.
Yeah, man, come on.
Hey, man, I try not to name drop. You know,
I mean, not rivers.
No rivers, no river talk, guys. There will be no rivers mentioned. Okay?
Wow.
Zero.
From Texas, I don't know what a river is.
Code of ethics.
Yeah, if it's not John's Creek, it's someone else's.
Correct.
I like that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so you've been in business what?
We're about to hit year 6.
Year 6. All right. And how long you been fishing?
12.
12 years. And before that, you never fished?
No, I've been fishing since I was like 9.
So is 12 mean fly fishing?
12 fly fishing.
Okay, 12 years fly fishing. But you don't really service, you service the Greenville people, but you fish, not to name rivers, but we can name regions. States, yeah.
Broad geographic areas. Upstate, maybe? Upstate? Is that
I
too
fish-
specific?
The Eastern time zone.
We stick with the South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee.
All right, okay. No Georgia.
No Georgia.
No
Never.
Georgia. All right.
Maybe one day.
South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee. All right. So, and it's interesting. I'll tell my story real quick. My brother Jeremy, we've talked about on the show before, was like, I called him. I was like, I want to fly fish. I was like, I'm going to buy this rod. I'm going to call Orvis and I'm going to go book a lesson because I'm a coach and I know I suck. And Orvis is a big name that I've heard of. And Jeremy, in his wisdom, was like, dude, that is the last thing you want to do. He's like, don't buy anything. Don't go to Orvis. He's like, you can like buy a cool hat there later. He's like, hire a guide. And so I typed in.
He knows his stuff.
Yeah, well, you fish with him.
He
Yeah.
knows his stuff.
So I typed in Greenville fly fishing and Hare's Ear popped up.
Bam. Didn't even pay for that.
Yeah, do you remember that call?
I do. I do.
What'd you think?
It's been a long
Like
time.
yesterday.
It was yesterday, right?
I think it was October.
7 months ago. 8 months ago.
November.
Seemed like
It was a
7
while
years.
now.
We fished before Christmas.
For sure. We
Yeah.
fished when it was very cold. You got into it when it was like 36-degree highs.
I like that better.
It is fun.
Yeah. Well, I just liked it better because you're in a good mood because, I still wanted to fish even
That's
though it was
it.
cold.
That's it. It's cold and the fish still eat when it's cold.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right. So 12 years fishing. Did you fish as a kid, like other methods?
100%.
Like what kind of
100%.
stuff did you do?
Ponds broke in. Well, back then, Greenville wasn't so big, like Greenville used to be full of farm ponds, dude. Like they were everywhere.
What is a farm pond for our listeners?
It's a piece of water surrounded by a bunch of grass.
So it's just like
And
small.
trees.
Okay.
It's just, man, it's like 2 acres. 3
All right.
acres.
Just
Some of them are
shore
10
fishing.
acres. Yeah, just shore fishing, throwing out there in the middle, hoping to get lucky. No strategy.
Yep.
Just knew there were fish there.
And reel casting.
Real spin rod. fishing.
Spin rod. That's what you call it.
Yes.
Okay. Spin rod. Okay.
Spin fishing.
So Jeff's a fly fisherman now. Trey is a bass fisherman. Big time in
Recent-
Texas.
Yeah.
I've done fly once. I've done it one time.
Yeah. What? How long you been? You got kind of like me. Once I got bit, I'm done. Like I'm over. Like I want to quit the Marine Corps. I want to close the Strength Co. I want to work for John.
It's bad.
I want to give him all my money. Like it's over. And like that I would say that similarly happened to you, right?
Yeah,
Like
as far
you
as
got
like fishing.
Yeah. Like when
Yeah,
was
so
that?
because I grew up like fishing recreationally. Like we'd go out maybe once a year and kind of like you said, go to a pond, go on a dock somewhere and just wet a line for a little bit. So my brother-in-law during COVID, my brother-in-law has always been really into fishing, big bass guy. And so during COVID, like I do sales. And so during COVID, like was shut down, I couldn't see any customers. So I was trying to figure something to do. And when he's like, hey, let's go fishing, and game over. So he let me borrow his rods, and then unfortunately he has
It's real.
very expensive tasting rods, and then I did by the same thing. So
It's very real bug, man. I used to play poker with a guy before I started fly fishing. He said, you should take this rod and go to the river. Because I used to go play cards at night back in the day before fly fishing. But I used to go spin fishing before the card games on the trout streams. I used to take like rooster tails, eggs, all that good stuff. And then one day he's like, hey, man, you should try fly fishing. So he brings me the rod and he hands me the rod. We're sitting on the front porch smoking a cigarette. And this guy says, whatever you do, man. I was married back then too. I've been married 16, 17 years now. And he says, just be careful. I was like, what you mean? He's like, it's real addictive. He's like, it's real addictive. And I was like, for real? He's like, you'll forget about money, your job, your family. And he was not playing. I went and fished for almost 700 days in a row. Right? Like, that's how I got into it. Like, it was bad. It was like, and like, I tell everybody what he told me. I tell everybody that now, like when they first get in the sport, it's like, man, it's real addictive. Like you gotta put the brakes on and like have some self-control. Cause you will, like you'll mess around and like stay up late, wake up early, go fish all day, come back home, feel miserable. And then you still got a bunch of crap to do. And it's like, but then you get your crap done. You're like, dude, I'm going back tomorrow.
That's what people keep telling me. Hey, they're like, hey, you should get into golf. I'm like, I can't. I got all my money tied up in fishing. I can't pick up another hobby.
That's what happens, man. You just get fully like the people. I call it the bug for a reason because it is, man. I've been around a lot of addictive personalities in my life, and fly fishing. I swear is the same thing. Like when you get into the Pandora's box of this game, it's pretty stupid. I mean, you could lose your mind in a good way, but also in a way where like. It's like, all right, you need to have like a talk with yourself and be like, enough's enough. Like I need to limit this.
Who knew this was going to be an intervention on fishing? Yeah. I love
it. It's an intervention. It's an intervention on Grant, who's about to have a kid. No, but it's interesting. So, I'll give a quick story. So you guys knew I was up in Glenville, North Carolina. That's as geographical as I'll get. And I wanted to go fishing. So, I was like, we're going to go fishing. And my wife's super pregnant. So I was like, all right, we're going up. It's her in-laws. We're staying at like my client's place. Like I'm very comfortable there, but everyone else kind of feels like a guest. Also, I can't leave and just go fish forever and like leave my wife home with the in-laws. But I'm like, all right, she's pregnant. She'll probably sleep till like 9. And like, they get along fine. But I'm like, all right, if I get back at like 10, I'm good. So I woke up the first day, like, I don't know, 5 in the morning. I'm like down there making coffee. And I was thinking I was going to be in the water by 6. And my dumb butt was like, I didn't even look and see what time sunrise was. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm sitting there in the pitch black, like staring at myself. I'm like, all right. So I'm looking at places to go. And anyway, I get out there and I go and I hike up and I'm fishing and like nothing's happening. And I want to ask you about this later, but like fly fishing is so interesting because it's also very mental. It's like you have this plan, you go in and you're like, and I'm terrible. Like I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm like, all right, I was taught by John Conits. I know a little bit. Nothing happens. I fish the whole stretch. I get back to where I started and the sun starts coming up, like actual sun, like hitting the water. I was like, you know what?
Could see you now.
I was like, I'm like, I'm just going to fish this stretch again. So I fish, boom, fish. Keep going down. All right, next hole. I'm sitting there. I'm like, well, there was a fish here. There's probably another one. I'm like, John would tell me to move. John would tell me to go. It's graph paper. Yep. So I move down, catch another fish. I look at my watch. It's 9:30. And I'm like, man, by the time I like hike out, get to my car, take all my stuff up and go up the hill, like I'm already going to blow 10 o'clock. So I told my wife, like, I'll be back 10 o'clock. And I was like, just one more cast. But I fought it. So I leave. And of course I leave on time, like a disciplined person. I hit the road I'm going to go on. And it's a one-way road. It's a dead end at the top of the mountain where we were staying. And they're moving in modular homes.
Oh, no.
And the road is blocked. And I still don't have service. So I can't even say I'm a mile away. I left the water when I told you I would. Typical I'm almost there. And then I'm like, so I walk up. I'm like, hey, how long you guys think it's going to be? I got time.
I screwed up, guys.
Yeah. But anyway. But yeah, no, it's like. Yeah, once you're on the water, you never want to leave.
You don't want to leave.
Nothing, even if you suck.
No, nothing exists on the water but there.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
No bills, no TV.
No Instagram.
No Instagram.
No politics. Amen to that.
Nothing, bro. It's all water.
Well, we got some questions we're going to kick around, but I'll start. What, your clientele, so like, I don't know, what have we fished together? A dozen times? probably.
Probably
At
more
least,
than that, yeah.
probably more than that. Yeah, at least 10, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe probably less than 20.
For sure.
So I come in, I couldn't tie a knot. Like your clientele, like what's I know you see a wide variety, but like what's your kind of common clientele?
It's kind of crazy. Like now it changes, right? Like I guess like this year has been a big change for us. I get like, I would say 70% of my clientele right now are regulars.
Okay.
Right. But it wasn't that way. It didn't start that way. I used to work for a fly shop. We'd get, new walks of life in there, and the same thing rolls over into my business. I have two types of clients. You have the tourist who is there for a day. They're crunching their time. They want to see something cool, do this little family excursion. Don't really care about learning, right? They just want to go catch some fish. We do that a lot.
Okay.
Right. Then we got guys like you who are like, I'm trying to learn.
Yeah.
So that's like a whole nother animal, as you know.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can shake hands and kiss babies, but a guy calls me and says, I want to learn. Like, bro, that's it. You're in trouble at that point. If you cannot take criticism, you're going to walk away like very frustrated with me. I'm just going to put that out there. Like, we're not that type of guide service trying.
I can second that. And I loved it because I remember people when they would come into the gym, it's a little different. Everyone actually thinks they want to get strong, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Maybe you get people that are like, oh, it's a free Saturday workout. But for the most part, like, I want to get strong. I think it's hard, and they all quit. And like, there's some people though that are just like, man, like you have to be mean to me or I won't do this.
Correct.
And that's John Conits right there. Let me tell you.
I'm super nice when I need to be.
Yeah, you always got a good way to bring it back around. Just sometimes you bring it back around like 3 days later.
Guys like you, worst thing you can do is tell a guy like me you want to learn. Yeah, I ain't about to push the gas pedal.
So what's the percentage? Now I'm gonna kick it around to them. Like, so are you 50%? Hey, I'm a banker. I want a picture with a fish.
Man, I got.
And I know you got guides under you, and you got a lot of fishing excursions going on.
Just client wise, right?
Yeah, I just mean like, what's the overall feel of like the people that call a guide?
It's mostly people with a higher income, the majority.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed over since COVID, women,
interesting,
have been a big part of fly fishing lately. Like, we're talking like big numbers.
Okay.
We're talking like neck and neck with the guys.
Wow.
There's some women's organizations and stuff that started up around our area, which is badass. Like, you got all this cool stuff happening. And then, I've got guys that work for Google, and then I've got guys who sell drugs. Probably. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. You just don't know.
That's why we don't name rivers. They might be a drug train.
We have so many, so many walks of life. What I am seeing is a trend in younger people from 30 to 45.
Okay.
I'm seeing couples fish together now.
Yeah.
Dudes aren't showing up with their bro and coming. It's like husband and wife.
Okay.
And then kids.
Yeah.
Seeing a lot of like 11 to 17-year-old kids, which is sick because.
So I got to wait till my girl's 11 to give her to you?
No.
I was going to pass her off at like 4.
I think the youngest I've guided is 5.
Okay.
It's kind of crazy with 5, but man, like there's a lot to do.
It's kind of,
they got like an hour of good fishing.
Okay.
And then they're like, we're picking up rocks, looking at bugs, being nerds on the water.
So, still an income right there. So I always ask people, I'm like, do you want me to teach me how to get strong, or you want me to be a babysitter? Like there's some age in there. It's different for every kid. But anyway, Jeff, what you got?
Well, we kind of touched on it a little bit, like with Grant talking about like, all right, getting started, asking his brother, what would you say to like, all right, person listens to this podcast, or I don't know, they see some stuff on YouTube and they're like, I want to give this a shot. What's kind of your first step that you recommend? And then also kind of like touched on it a little bit, and that like a lot of your clientele is higher income, like fly fishing like golf can be like a big barrier to entry with like the price tag of stuff. what do you recommend for that person that like, okay, they go out with a guide, they love it, and they want to get into it, but they don't have a ton. Maybe it is that like 17-year-old kid whose parents aren't going to foot the bill for everything. Kind of what do you recommend for that person just starting out that then is like, okay, I want to keep doing this, but how do I kind of get this on like a budget kind of level?
Okay. So basically, if you're wanting to get into this, first thing I'm going to tell you, and I don't say this because I'm a fishing guide, and it is kind of cliche to say as a fishing guide, I do believe hiring a guide will save you a lot of time. So I wasn't lying about the 700 days, right? And I will say, my wife, when I would come home, my wife would be like, how'd it go? And I'd be like, it was all right. You know, like, did you catch any? I was like, oh, you know, like, and what I didn't tell her was that I had been on the bank for 6 hours re-rigging my crap because I was in the tree and I only fished for 2, right? So like, that's one of those deals where a guide comes into play when you learn to read water and not waste time on sex. You know, when you get into a river, you look at a river and you break it down. There's a lot going on. It's very overwhelming. And then when you start learning how to read water, you're actually complicating it even more, because then you're dissecting like, oh, this is a little slower. Fish could hold here. This time of year, they're going to be here. This time of year, they're going to be. So you start, when you hire a guide, you're beating a lot of that time of frustration. I will tell you, there were times where I wanted to quit because I was so mad. I was driving, dude. I was driving an hour away, 2 hours away, 3 hours away just to go fish. And I was leaving Greenville every day to go do this for 2 years. And literally, I think most of my time was wasted on the bank because no one taught me that I could just simply make a little swoop cast to begin with, right? Like there's so many things that go into play when you first get there. It's overwhelming. Fly selection, like holy crap. Like walk into a fly shop, brother, and if you've never done this, and look at the fly bin and you tell me what they're eating, because that's where it gets like super complex, complicated, but a guide will simplify that for you. So I definitely think like you spend $400, $500, $600 on a fishing guide, you're going to save. Dude, you're saving hundreds of dollars in time and gas and energy and all kinds of. I think it's like you're actually winning when you hire the guide. Yeah. I'm not saying that because I am a guide. Any client that knows me knows I hate spending money. Knows I'm a very budget.
He loves when I buy him a Dunkin' Donuts.
Like right, like I go all out on the clients, but man, on me, I got the same T-shirt on I probably had 3 days ago. It was just on top of my drawer. Bam, you know, like my wife washed it, so that's who I am. But to get into it for a very cheap way, like you can't get lucky. Like Grant walks in one day, and Grant came in the cheapest you can come in, just to be clear, right? So it's one of them sports where you can find a rod. First, go to your local fly shop. You never know if they got a sale going on, and we got a Dodson out there in Travelers Rest. Good guys over there. They got a bunch of crap that you can buy, dude. Like they will walk you down the whole price guide. Most of these fly shops will. They'll show you everything you can, like beginner friendly, budget. Like the rods I got, like this rod right here, Grant just hung up on a wall. That's $1,000. That reel right there is $650. The line on that reel is $100. There is a used Honda Accord sitting behind me, right? So like
it's a good prop.
You can go crazy with it, or you can find deals. There's always people selling rods online. That's another thing. You're not going to be able to buy everything online because what happens is half that stuff's junk, but you can put your hands on it in a fly shop. Yeah. So like in a fly shop's kind of a big part of the fly fishing industry. Now, I'm a guide service. I've worked in the shops. I've seen that. That's just not what I do, but I know for a fact, like if it wasn't for a fly shop, I wouldn't have half the shit I have now because, you got to have that stuff. Once you buy everything, you're looking at, I think you can get into fly fishing without the waders and boots for $350, $400, right?
No, the deal he's talking about of me getting the deal when we talked about, and I think episode 2, is I went to Dodson, our friends and Travelers Rest, and I started fly fishing in the winter, and I was like, and I was really in. And I'm not a broke 17-year-old, right? And I'm like, man, I got to buy $650 waders, and I got to buy $300 boots, and I got to buy these socks, and not like that's before I don't even own a net yet. And the guy walks in, he's like, hey, you don't know anyone with a size 14, do you? And we're like, yeah, right here. He's like, you want these boots? I'm like, how much? Like $50. I was like, what else is in the box? He's like, waders. I was like, 100 for all of it. He's like, might not work. I was like, I'll take my chances, right?
Yep.
So you're right.
Hilarious.
But it's kind of similar to what I was going to say. It's like barbell training when people want a home gym.
Yeah.
It's like, I actually think the similarities in terms of there actually is upfront cost.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, the answer is you could hire a coach and go learn what you're doing, save a bunch of time. Could join a gym, not really applicable. Like you want to buy a home setup, your wife's personal trainer. Like, hey, brother, $1,500 on the cheap if you go base.
Yeah.
If you go base, and then like fly fishing is like barbell training. You could have a $25,000 gym, like easily.
Easily.
It's same. And like, it's even at the point now where I always tell myself, like, I keep trying to fish, keep trying to get better. I'm like, gear is not what's holding me back. Like, I need more time on the water. Like, it's not gear. But you do need requisite gear to even get better.
I agree.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's some crappy gear out there, man.
So,
Yeah. Like my rod.
I guess kind of following up on that, man, is so like let's say you're at grants level. So like at bass fishing, I'm not going to start somebody off like on a G Loomis rod. They're going to use like an ugly stick. If it's like a kid that they break it, it's like a $10 rod, not a big deal. So let's say like they're at grants level, they're like intermediate. Like what would you
Not
then
an
tell
intermediate. I am a novice.
them? Okay, well,
Yeah. But
later stage novice then.
someone that cares a lot.
Later stage novice. Yeah.
I'm a novice, brother.
If they're let's say they're serious about it
man.
now, like then what would you tell them? All right, I would start saving up for this, maybe spend money on this. This is a waste of money. Don't even bother about getting this. Like,
I always am upfront about the rods. So the rods I use, right? These guys don't pay me, by the way. I will never be sponsored in this industry, but
You might.
I might one day.
You might be sponsored by us.
That'd be great.
We have a
These guys
sponsor,
don't
which is
pay me.
crazy. You might
But-
have one.
So I fish a lot of like Scott rods, right? Like it's a very high end rod made in America, yada, yada, yada. They do a great job. They make a great rod.
Good
They
warranty?
Good warranty. They don't drop fish. I've fished with a lot of crappy rods, and I tell people that, right? Like I tell the guy, like someone asked me that question, like, what should I buy? I'm like, look, man, I wouldn't cheap out, because what I did, I went to Cabela's, bought a Cabela's rod early on, right? Not a bad rod, good starter rod. It's budget friendly. It is what it is. But my problem was I ended up buying about 15 other rods after that Cabela rod, right? So you end up, if you come out of pocket to begin with and you got the money to spend, I suggest always buying the right gear first. That way you're not buying the same gear 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, like my dumb ass. Like I was in a fly shop. When I fished those 700, I was in a fly shop. Man, I bet you I was in a fly shop every other day dropping coin. Like, it was bad. It was bad. But I didn't have anybody to tell me, hey, man, this rod right here is going to kind of cover your bases for our whole region right here.
Yeah.
Like no one told me. So I didn't know. I was just in there buying stuff and being a dude from Greenville walking into these mountain towns. I look crazy, talk crazy. Everything just doesn't fit. And I don't want to tell people that I don't know shit. Like I'm like, I walk in there with my chest out, like, oh, I know what I'm looking for. I don't need any help. I'm that dude, right? Like that's who I was when I stepped up in those shops. And so I learned that the hard way. So that sucked.
Buy nice, don't buy twice.
Buy nice, don't buy twice.
So true. That's the same thing we say in strength training equipment, especially like the main deal is the barbell, like that one over there. That's the first one I ever bought. And actually, someone told me that's a Bergeron and Ripito 2.0. Used to be made by York. They no longer make that bar, but they were like, look, the barbell is what you're connected to for the whole system. and I sell plates mainly. Right. So I'm like talking against my own business, but they were like, if
Great
you're going to
plates.
spend money, thanks. They're like, if you're going to spend money, the barbell. And I think it's similar to the rod. I mean, I also feel like I need a smaller one to fish some of those creeks I've been fishing.
My second year guiding for this fly shop, I was on this water we guided, and
this water,
and I had these two musicians come into town, and
Jack White.
it was
Definitely.
it was my first skunk ever. I took a double skunk that day.
With clients.
Yes.
Oh, so that's way worse.
And I've only taken like 3 skunks, right,
Yeah.
bro? Like
You always put me
I
out.
take some L's in muskie, but I don't really take L's in the trout game,
Yeah.
right? Or bass. And so I remember every time we'd hook a fish, we'd bring that fish in, and I had these rods. Cheap L cheapos, bro. They were terrible. That guy would lift up on that fish and the hook would pop out. I'm talking, we went 6-7 fish in a row like that. And I'm thinking these guys are, doing something weird with the rod. I'm not really paying attention. I'm kind of a young guy at the time. So
It's
I'm like,
the rod.
it was the rod dropping those fish, dude. Some of these rods, they drop. I call them fish droppers.
I didn't know my mom was fishing with a Honda Accord. Maybe that's why she caught 2. I thought you just trained me up real good, and I knew how to fish small fish.
Man, it was just some old cheap. I mean, dude, I don't know where they made these rods, but I guarantee you they were not. They were just in the factory. Like you better off getting a 3D printed rod at this point.
Man.
Like that's it. I'll never forget that day. I threw all those rods out. I sold them all.
Good.
Sold them all.
Got back to the good stuff.
Do you fish any tournaments?
No. I'm not really into. I fished a sheep's head tournament one time at saltwater.
Okay.
In Louisiana.
Fish Buford all the time.
Yeah, it was sheep's head only. You had to catch them in the grass, sight fished with a fly rod. You couldn't catch them off rock points. That was probably the coolest tournament ever because of the crowd that was down there. And it was me and a buddy. We were the only 2 trout dudes from over here. And it was a bunch of saltwater fly fishermen and guides. And that's the only tournament. They do tournaments like comp tournaments and fly fishing, like Euro nymphing and stuff. But I'm not really into that stuff. Like it works, it catches fish, but I like fly casting, man.
Yeah.
Euro nymphing's more of a lob casting technique. It's contact nymphing, you know what I mean? Like their techniques are phenomenal. I use them a lot with regular rigs, but tournament fishing is not really a big deal. You start getting into them boys down south, like in the Keys, like the tarpon.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we were the boys down south.
I mean, those guys. Those guys down there actually play for real money. I mean, they do some real big tournaments down there. Now that's a world I'm just so out of touch.
So I want to ask you that. So you fish 700 days in a row. When you did that, so like right now, if I could fish 700 days in a row, I feel like I would. Right?
I know you could.
I know you could. I could.
I know you.
Yeah.
You have a baby right now, brother. You might.
I might be fishing 700 days in a row. But when you fish 700 days in a row, was your mindset, I want to open a guide service, or did you want to catch fish? Because right now I'm just obsessed with like, I just want to catch
the
fish.
chase, man. The chase is what it was about. The puzzle.
You didn't think about your business that you have right now.
No.
When did that happen? Was it day 300? Was it after the 700 days?
No, man. I caught one fish on the Davidson River.
We don't name rivers on this
I'll
podcast.
throw that one out
we
there.
just call that a river.
I'll throw that one out there just because people know that river so well.
Yeah,
it was
fair.
one of them fisheries back when I was fishing it, and it's still a great fishery. We guide it every day.
That's the first place we went.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there was this fish early October. These big fish push out of the system. And what they're doing, they're migrating to spawn. They weren't spawning back then. It was just like a push for, all these fish that moved from the lower river to the upper river. And you walk around, you see these huge fish in these deep holes. And what they were doing, they were just migrating, pushing upstream. And I saw that fish September 7th. I caught that fish October 26th. So I went up there for a month and a half every day and chased this fish.
So
Sure, it wasn't
Mount
the 27th.
I got to throw John some street cred here because when I first started fishing with him, I was like, this dude just speaks in absolutes. He's like, that hole has this size fish. And I'm like, okay. It's a river. You also just told me this is the second oldest river in the world. Like, how does that hole have that fish? And he's like, this thing will do that. And like, everything's an absolute. That was 13 inches. I'm like, we didn't measure it, right? But what I found is he's actually right on most of those things. So I just I think that whatever dates he just threw, I think they're accurate.
They are. I mean, I'll never forget it, man.
You learned
I
that in
chased
guide
fish
school.
for-
Wait, but
month and a half.
so you caught that fish and then you wanted to guide?
I literally went home, told my wife I was going to be a fishing guide.
I just told my wife that last night.
Stole
So.
everything. Oh, come on. Tired. Literally went home that day and
Yeah.
begged. Went in the next day. I called fly shops in our region and begged them to hire me for 6 to 8 months till someone finally picked me up.
Trey, you got a question on fly shops, don't you? I just want to poke him about his business, but you had one about like, how do you know a good fly shop?
Yeah, I think that would probably be one. Man, it's as far as like I've walked into maybe 2 fly shops, and I don't know, like what is there one that differentiates one? Like whenever you walk in,
100%, 100%.
Can we talk about the one up by? No, okay.
No, but we could. I mean, that's a good shop.
That's my favorite. I've probably been in 10 now. That's my favorite. By far.
They're good people over there, man. They were there when I started.
Okay, so
They were there when
I guess what he's asking is like, you're a new guy. Jeff's question. You're on a budget. You know, whatever. But like me, so even me now, like I've fished with you, Western North Carolina, a good bit. And every time I'm not fishing with you, I'm fishing and I'm texting you and you're telling me. Sometimes I don't want to bug you. So I'm like, all right, is there a fly shop around here? So I walk in and the guy's like all dressed fancy wearing Orvis. Like for me, like I know nothing, but I'm just like, he looks like a little too fancy. Like he probably doesn't know what he's talking about. But I was also John Conits trained. Like, I expect you to be in a t-shirt smoking a Newport. If you're not, you don't know what you're doing.
I'm a big fan. If you see a dog in a fly shop,
okay,
you're probably in the right spot. If they allow dogs in the fly shop, you're probably in the right spot.
Is that the first question you asked?
I mean, I look around, man. You know, I don't like a real bougie types environment because, like, I think that's where fly fishing becomes like, I don't fit in this game. Let me just go ahead and put that out there. Like, I don't fit in the fly fishing material world, right? I come from West Greenville where things are very, very different from mountain towns, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's all here in Greenville where we are right now. Like, this is a cutthroat city. I mean, you have to go to work. You have to do your job or someone will replace you immediately. Mountain towns move a little bit slower, and when you walk into those places, man, you get that vibe where these people live a little bit more peacefully than we do in these bigger cities, you know, and I respect that a ton. I chase that a ton, right? This is where I'm at every day. I'm in these places, but like you see these fly shops, you walk in and there's like $2-3 million sitting in that shop. And then, you know, like half of them are funded by a client that has a ton of money, or the other half is like that dude that's, you know, like me, who has absolutely struggled day in, day out, committed to the lifestyle, loves the sport so much. They put all their heart and soul into that shop. And then that's kind of what shows up with me. I'm a people reader. So I can walk in a fly shop and be like, you know, if they have a good fly tying selection, like where you can actually tie flies, like buy material to tie your own flies. If their fly tying selection is big, if it's as big as their retail side of like clothing, you're in the right spot.
Interesting.
That's another thing. Like if they have a bunch of fly tying stuff, bro, I am there. If they have a bunch of flies, like a bunch of flies, I'm there. Like I think there's some shops that just is half-assed and they're out here just to kind of wash some money or do whatever they want to do or just play, right? Like, I don't know. I couldn't own a fly shop. That inventory list scares me, you know?
Man.
But I think if you can find the dog, find a good fly tying selection, and then if you walk in there and the dudes are just stoned out of their mind, I mean, that's cool, man.
Might
Like
be
you're going to
tool
see a
like
lot
that.
of you're going to see a lot of that, but I'm not that guy either, right? Like you need to be professional when you walk in. You know, I want help. When I walk in a shop, you need to be asking me, "Hey, sir, how you doing?" Like,
Yeah.
I don't like that shit where you walk in and the guy just kind of, I'm a fly shop worker. I'm not going to talk to you. You know, like I really catch fish, bro. Like that bro lifestyle that's in this sport, trash, right? Like that's trash. Like I know I talk funny, but I've got respect and manners at the same time. Like, right? Like there's never a client that calls me and I'm like, "What's up, bro?" You know, because I don't know who the hell I might be talking to Bill Gates. You know,
Yeah,
what I mean,
he might be.
I might be talking to some dude that if you called him bro, might show up at your house because he's got a problem with that. You know what I mean? Like you don't talk to people like that. You know, and when it needs to be professional. Like the boys at Dodson, professional.
Yeah, no, they're great. Yeah.
Boys at Chattooga, professional.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
now we're naming stuff. Okay. All right.
well, you know, like I just know these people
yeah.
personally.
No.
I'm
I
not
will.
going to name a river though.
No, we won't name a river. I will say fishing in upstate South Carolina, which I want to ask John about. Don't let me forget me ask him about upstate because everyone asks us about the upstate about the podcast. But fishing in upstate South Carolina a little bit, and I had to beg him to tell me a river that I could fish just because I was like, bro, my heart's in South Carolina. I got to fish South Carolina River. So he gave me one. But in Western North Carolina, I walk into any fly shop literally, and it's not 10, but it's more than 5. And I drive, like, if there's one thing that John taught me, it's like 2 hours is nothing. Like, what are you talking about? Because at first I was like, yeah, but where can I fish close? He's like, you can't fish close. And I was like, yeah, but I need to fish close. He's like, if you're short on time, you're not fishing. He's like, then you're just checking a box.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, I mean, we came back from Glenville, North Carolina today. We put it in the car. And it's like an hour and 36 minutes. And we hit the sign where it's like Casher's 11 miles. And, you make the left. And I was like, oh, yeah. I turned off the GPS. And I was like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, that's where I come fishing. She's like, you come this far? And I was like, oh, yeah. Like all the time. And John is telling me. But anyway, my point is, I walk into any fly shop and I mention hare's ear and you get a response. And it's a wild variety of responses.
It's probably a wild.
Yeah,
variety.
but it's always this guy. No, it's a good one, right?
Yeah.
It's like everyone knows, and you can tell when it's like competitor, right? And you can tell when there's respect. And it's similar like in barbell training. Like I always tell people when I train them, right? So when you train people for the first time, there's a way you put a plate on the bar. And like you could put letters in or you could put letters out. But the reason you put letters in is because there's a handle on it. And I always kind of make a joke when I teach my camps. I'm like, hey, look, when you leave here, you're Grant Broggi trained. Yeah. And if you post a video online with those letters out and say that you trained with me, I'm going to be pissed. You fix it right now. And they're like, it's a warm up. It's 65 pounds. I'm like, I don't care. Fix it. Because this is how we do it, right? And that's like when you walk into a fly shop in this area, and I mention hare's ear or John Conits, people they're like, oh, all right. And that's fun. It's fun
weird.
to represent.
It's weird, man.
Yeah, we got to make you some more merch.
We'll get out there.
Yeah, we got it. What you got next, Jeff?
I was just glad to hear that that Western Rivers fly fisher, the fly shop I go to, checked all those boxes. He said, I was like,
oh, good. Yeah. Well, actually, why don't you
frequently
tell
have
me a little
dogs
bit
in there. Yep. They got a lot of fly tie materials and the guys are
not
actually like
too
really
much
helpful and nice. And yeah, it's a good group that runs that shop.
They're probably Mormons. They're not smoking any dope.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think they're Mormons. I've seen them drink beer.
Why don't you ask them about rivers out there versus here? And
I mean,
regions.
yeah, I guess, have you done much like fly fishing kind of like out west, like Utah,
For sure.
Wyoming, Montana? You ever
Not
fished
Montana. I've done Idaho.
Okay.
I've done Colorado. And I will say it's a lot easier out there than it is for us out here.
Oh yeah, way more space.
Like, dude, so much more water. Those fish don't see flies, but for 6 months, 8 months at most out of the year. You know, you come over here, man. Like we get a lot of those guys from out west that they see our rivers.
They're like, what?
And you know, I fish what I call some of the best trout rivers in the country. I mean, they're just hard as crap.
Just
right?
pressured.
Like, I mean, pressured
fish.
Pressured fish.
Pressured.
And there's a way to fish pressured fish. You gotta really slow your game down. You know, when I was out west with one of my buddies, he bought some land out west and he took me fishing on the Snake River. I could not believe the amount of fish that came off the bank on 2X. Like it was to fish 2X over here where I am is just like a funny joke. Yeah. Like it's like it doesn't exist. It does sometimes, but it really not. We don't really do that over here, man. Like this water is very different, and I truly believe out west is a very, very genuine experience. I catch myself more out west stopping and looking around me more than I do here. Here is beautiful. I put our side. I put the Southeast against whatever, right? I do. But when I was out west, and you see these moose, and you see these giant like peaks that like. See, we don't have the peaks here. Yeah. We don't have those big Rocky Mountain peaks, and like when you're looking at that crap, you're like, holy crap, brother. And when it's like 32 degrees there, 28 degrees there, it's like warmer. Yep. It's like it's doable. Like here, 28, brother, you are so cold. I mean,
cold.
We fish most of our January. We do a lot of streamer fishing for these big browns in Tennessee, and like I ain't kidding you, like it is some of the most brutal conditions anyone could fish in. Like I saw one of my clients last year, like hands split wide open for 5 days straight, Tylenol every day, ibuprofen every day, Neosporin, Band-Aids. Like I was out west in like 16 degrees and we were just like, man, Chilling. It feels really good out here, dude. Like what's something wrong? Like
call that a dry cold.
It's that dry cold. That dry cold is just so different, man. But I will say, y'all's fishing is better as far as, what do I call it? Better as an experience of just the fly fishing in general. But man, we got rivers on this side of the country that I'd put up against anything in the world. Yeah. Like I am very blessed to fish some of the rivers. I mean, I had a client 2 days ago put a freaking 12-pound brown in the net. And we're talking about a wild fish here. We're not talking about one that was fed dog food and grew to that size. We're talking about a big, wild, stream-born fish. I mean, and when you do that in the fly fishing world, you have accomplished like the main trout goal, right? Like watching him land that personal, because I've been fishing with this guy for years, and I've watched him lose fish like this for years. And when you put that thing in the net on the East Coast, I mean, there's a lot of dudes that would pay 10, 15 grand to fly down to New Zealand to do that. I'm driving 2 hours up the road, man, and here we are. Like I do it. I see those fish every day. Like I see them. It's part of our game here, and it's not a go out there, throw it, and hope for the best scenario. You know what I mean? Out west, I feel like you have a better chance of coming out there and just having a really good experience. With here, you have to put in just a little bit more work than the average angler would out west. I'd
say a lot more work.
A lot. It's a lot. We got some easy fisheries.
What I was saying, this is like me. I thought he kept taking me to rivers, and I'm like, all right, I kind of know what I'm doing. Then he took me to one, and I was like, I have no idea. And it was so clear. I could see everything. And what he's saying about the fish, because we got in the boat, and he's like, kind of what he said now. He's like, people pay a lot of money to go far, and it's right here in our backyard. And by the way, the only thing he lied about was 2 hours. John's 2 hours that's a really loose 2 hours by the time.
I'm all over the place.
Yeah. By the time you get the boat out in the water, it's a long 2 hours. But that messed with me. That was the most mental day I've ever had. And I was like, I love John yelling at me. I love him critiquing me. But what the fish he just described, like I saw, and he's like, cast it there, let the fly go there. And I could not do it. And I was like, wow, I've been in these other rivers.
Humble pie.
Yeah, you got to eat it till the proof's in the pudding.
Humble pie.
It ain't there yet. But no, I didn't go in there thinking I was all good. But like once you can see the fish, like, I mean, even now, even where I was fishing yesterday, I'm like, put me in the fast water. I don't want to see the fish. Let me read the current. And I would just hear in my mind, John, on the days that he goes, they're in the fast water today. I'm like, I don't know if that's true or not, but I like it way better when they're in the fast water.
Everybody does.
Yeah, right. Does. Because you can't see them. And you're just like, oh, that was a good drift. Right. But man, he took me out there and it was like, wow, the level of angling. I was trying to describe it to my dad yesterday. I was like, Dad, John took me to a place. I was like, he told me it was an aquarium and I literally didn't believe him. And we launched the boat and it was muddy. I'm like, this isn't an aquarium. And we went 50 feet and it was an aquarium. And John did what probably a good guy does. I don't want to out you, but he put me in fast water and I caught like 15 fish in like 30 minutes. And I'm like, I am the man. He's like, let's go catch a big one. And we went out and I'm talking, yesterday we were there. I was trying to teach my mom to fish. I'm like, all the bait fish are out there. Mm-hmm. And I gave her my Smith glasses. Shout out Smith, potential sponsor of the podcast.
Best glasses out there.
Best glass out there. Get the yellow lens. A lot of people tell you get other ones.
Lights.
Yellow goes all year.
Low lights.
And Mom's like, whoa, look at all these fish. And so later I was trying to describe her. I was like, Mom, like I've been to places where all like you put those glasses on. You don't even need the glasses actually.
Yeah.
And all the fish are this big. And the flies are bumping them in the forehead.
They don't care.
And they're not biting. I was like, because she like that little, do you know what that fish was? The last one she caught? You probably forget.
Brim.
You look at some.
It was a brim.
It was a brim, right? Okay, that's what I said. So she was so pumped because it was bigger than the last one. Right? It's a brim. And I told her it was a brim. So I'm glad I got that right. And, but she kept saying, I'm looking at this big one. I'm looking at this big one. So I'm like behind her shoulder. I'm like, go right there. And I just kept doing John Conits. Be ready right there. Be ready right in there. And he finally got it, whatever. But when you took me out there, it was terrible. It was great. It was great. It was exactly what I needed. But I realized like, whoa, this is a whole new level because now the fish can see everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And I think that's like as hard as trout fishing can get anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. It's that hard. There's a reason you don't see guides guiding that water.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's really tough. There's only a select few of us that are crazy enough to go in there day after day and watch people crumble, watch people land them. But people have mental breakdowns in this sport. It's just like any other sport depends how serious they're taking it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not a fan. Like soon as the guy starts crumbling, it's like, all right, man, I'm the guy that's going to be like, man, you screwed that up. Big time. We're going to go right back to this fast water. We're going to have a great day.
He did not do that to me.
No.
I just remember the ride out of there and we're rowing the boat out and I could see all these fish. He's like, hey man, you've been fishing with me for 6-7 months. Cast where you think. And I'd cast. He goes, that's what you picked? You're going to cast over there in this water with all those fish right there. And I look over and it's like all these huge fish running around. So I cast over there. Oh, now you're going to go over there. But it was the best. It's the best. I got the world's best fly fishing guide. Anyway, Trey, what else you got?
Man, so I was going to, I think first question, I got two questions, man. So let's say you have like bass fishing, like I change rods depending on what I'm throwing. If I'm throwing a swim bait, I got a swim bait rod. If I'm throwing a
yes, sir.
crankbait rod, so to speak. One thing that's appealed to me, and I don't know if this is accurate about fly fishing, is you just go out with one rod and it kind of covers all the bases. Is that true, or are you bringing out multiple rods, or what?
Trout fishing, I think as a recreational angler, one rod, you're good to go.
Okay.
9 foot.
9'5" in our area.
Okay.
It's a great rod. I'd say a 9.6 out west most of the time, even a 9.4. But see, I'm fishing 10.4s for certain types of water. And then I'm fishing 9.5s for certain types of water. And then now that you brought up the bass, we got a lot of smallmouth, right?
Mhm.
Like that's what I love, right? Like we're in the middle of that right now. We've been on a 2-month tear of that. And when we show up for bass, we've got 2, 4, I might have 8 rods in the boat. And that's because bass
With one client.
with 2 clients.
2 clients.
Yeah.
But you got 8 rods. Like, so you,
Ready to roll.
Okay.
Bud. Ready to roll.
Same line on all of them?
No, they're all different. They're all different. I'll have like intermediate sinking lines. I'll have a floating lines fly set up. We'll have spin rods in the boat. So one thing I'm not against, like I'm a fly fishing guy, but when you're fishing bass, if you don't have a spin rod set up, you're not actually fishing those fish. They don't always eat fly rods like everyone says they do. If you want, there's guys you can go out there and catch. I got friends who won't put a spin rod in the boat. It's like against the rules. And I'm a catcher, right? Like I'm not out here to go. I'm not going to go float 5 miles and catch 10 bass on a popper that I'm just skatooting across the water, right? When I can just catch, 50 on a spin rod.
I'm not
right?
much of a spin rod guy either.
But there's nothing wrong with spin rod. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I was against it early on, but when you start dealing with a fish like a bass, this is a very migratory fish. This thing does different things at different times of day. And what happens is it's not that one fish. It's the whole river that's doing that when it happens. So if you got a fish that's sitting on a bank for 12 hours for 3 weeks and you show up week number 4 and you throw to the bank and you realize your fish are not there anymore. Mm-hmm. One, you beat the hell out of them too much, right? And you're looking for a bite that you've ruined. Or those fish have migrated into a different type of water column. And a spin rod is faster, quicker, more effective in rivers when it comes to smallmouth bass. In trout, I'll never guide trout with spin rod. It just ain't that fish is a predictable fish. They always do the same thing. They feed in a line of current, same type of year, different type of temperatures. Bass, you can find those fish 6 inches deep, a foot deep, 3 foot deep, 4 foot deep, in the ripping current, in the slowest current, all in the same day.
Yeah, I'd be curious what they do, like bass in a river versus bass in a lake, kind of what the difference is.
Very, very different species, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Very, very different. Very different.
I guess
you have your home body fish. Yeah, go ahead.
The second question I had, man, is let's say you had like money, no option, someplace that you're like, this is a bucket list place that I want to go fish. And I guess not in South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee.
It'd be really hard for me to take. I'm not lying when I say this, but I will fish those 3 states before I go anywhere in the world.
Really? Okay.
That just don't make no sense to me. It just, I mean, you got to see what I see though. Like we just got back. We just did this 2-day camping trip.
That looked cool, by the way.
Oh my
Good
God.
social media.
Oh, dude.
I was dying inside.
Oh man, we did this 2-day camping trip, brother. Phenomenal bass fishery. Now it was scary, right? Like there is crazy white water. The logistics is very screwed up. We had planned this for months. Another buddy that's a guide of mine and another guide service buddy of mine from East Tennessee. We all like butt our heads together, did this trip, had a few of our buddies come with to kind of be the guinea pigs on. And we ran this, such a secluded piece of the world, man. Like, right. Like I could take video down there and you'd be like, I don't know where he's at. And I'm really close to my house. Right. Like I'm really, really, really close. I would want to go do something in the salt if I had to get away from where I'm at.
Beaufort's a great place. I'd love to explore it with you.
Yeah, Beaufort. I'd want to go do. From what I hear, a lot of my
Redfishing.
clients. I've done the redfish. I've done that. I've done that in Louisiana. I've done it in North Carolina. I've done it in South Carolina too. But I would want to go chase permit in Mexico.
Okay.
That seems like a really. It's a hard fish. They say it doesn't eat. Right, like it's a real hard fish to get to eat. They can really like see well, smell well, all that good stuff. I'd probably want to go do that.
If you had to.
If I had to, yeah, I've just got so much at my front door. I mean, any day of the week we could be guiding striper, muskie, smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, brown trout, rainbow trout, brook trout. And whatever else you want to catch, man.
Brim.
I just went muskie fishing a couple months back up in
You'll like this story.
up in Canada.
Yes,
And
good fishing.
how
up
big
there
do they
for
get
muskie.
down in your neck of the woods?
The other day we had one that was 45 on accident, and we hooked it on accident bass fishing. I have seen one that was 51 inches 2 years ago. And I know a guy that caught a 55 2 or 3 years ago as well.
What'd you
Now,
catch, Trey?
are they sitting there? Are they just following or?
No, they caught these fish. These were caught fish.
Okay.
But but muskie do yes.
The follow?
We see a lot. We see a lot of that, especially on our pressured muskie fisheries. They do follow a lot, like a lot. Most of the muskie fisheries around here are very pressured because it's such a tight knit.
There's muskie here
Real close.
in this state, or close to it.
Close enough.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, not like I would say there's muskie in South Carolina, but man, it'd be real hard.
I won't name
will-
rivers,
I
but
will
within
say
2
that-
hours, I could be on muskie.
There are muskie west of us in the state
Okay,
for
okay,
sure,
okay,
for sure, but not many.
okay.
A lot more in North Carolina and Tennessee, in Virginia. The like where you were at, the muskie land, like right, like that is
all over the place.
full of.
How many did you catch, Trey?
So we didn't catch. So muskie season, we weren't really fishing for it. So we were doing smallmouth fishing, and you would just get a muskie follow like on a swim bait, and that's really all it was. And if you don't have up there, if you don't have like a metal leader or something like that, then they'll just cut your line real quick, which is what happened
They will.
whenever I hooked one.
They will cut you off.
Leaders are
Yeah.
expensive.
Oh yeah. But I think like our group caught maybe 3 total. So
Yeah.
You were catching crappie?
no, we would do. So I went crappie fishing like earlier. That was back in like March. I think that's down here in Texas. But up there we were doing walleye fishing.
Oh, yeah, that's right, walleye.
And you do walleye fishing like before, and then you do like a shore lunch, and then like in the afternoon you would just do smallmouth fishing.
Okay.
And it was like
Smallmouth.
it was like right after post spawn up there because it was a lot colder, so the seasons are a little bit later or earlier, I should say. And so they were eating everything, all the crawfish up there.
Most underrated fish on fly rods, smallmouth bass. I expect a huge. The boys up north. There's some guys in Michigan that have actually gave respect to that fish and have done a good job marketing that fish to the community, because I think people get tied into the trout and realize that like fly fishing is about fly fishing. It's not about trout. It's still a chase. It's still a puzzle.
I feel attacked.
Yeah, I know you do. You won't. give it a little time.
All right.
But I think smallmouth fishing, pound for pound, probably one of the hardest fish to catch some days too. Like you have to play your cards. Like they're really easy. Like when you're from a guide's point, like we just want to catch a few fish, yada, yada, yada. But like if you want to like go and chase like a big smallie on the fly, like you're going to like around our area, you're going to have like 2 shots that day if you fish it perfect. Like you're going to have like, it's very like 60-foot long cast into the shade. If the shade line's 6 inches wide, you have to put it in the 6-inch wide shade line, or you're not getting bit that day.
Wow.
Like you're not going to catch that fish. It's it's a wild fish. It's what our company stands for. We're all about wild fish, like stream-born, native or wild. That don't matter, right?
What
Like,
can you give the listener? Because we got a lot of dumbass weightlifters here.
that's fine.
All right.
That's a
So we got
dumbass
hatchery,
out here.
native, wild,
Yeah,
just
so-
like 1 minute.
So stock fish are fish that the state makes in-house, just like a damn, I don't even know, like a frozen foods department. They put it in the conveyor belt. They dump them off into the rivers.
Is that a hatchery?
Hatchery.
Are they all bad?
I'm not a fan.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm not a fan of them.
all right. Finish the explanation. Then I want to dig into
So
that.
I think hatchery fish have they have a place, and it's not where wild fish live,
Okay.
because they compete with the wild fish. And when you stock a bunch of, it'd be like taking, how do you put this? You're literally taking from the resource when you add something to it that it doesn't need. It already has what it needs. You can't take a river that, the way rivers are set up, they're allowed to produce a certain amount of fish. The food in that river is only so abundant for what's in it already. So if you've got a river with 700 fish a mile, like our Freestones in Pisgah, they don't have a lot of fish in them. You got 10 fish a hole or something, right? You know, some of these rivers out in the other part of the states, like Tennessee, you might have 50 fish in a hole. There's more biomass in that river. There's more bug life in that river for those fish to survive on. But when you take 7 fish a hole river and then you dump 40 fish on top of those 7, there's a problem. Okay, first off, there's not enough food. Somebody's going hungry. You're going to start seeing fish die, get ate. Something's going to happen. Another thing is, I think a lot of fly shops and a lot of companies are made from stock fish, right? Like, so there are people making a living off these fish, and I made a living off them for a while, and I still have a place we have access to that has stock fish, and
Why can't we go there?
we're not going there. We're not going there. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's for a certain crowd. I think it's for a kid, or I think it's for a 90-year-old, 95-year-old man who can't walk, but I can take him right here and sit him down and put him on a couple fish real quick. You know, I think that's the place for him. Now, when people get in this funk of chasing stock fish, chasing where they stock the most, and going out and chasing these trucks that load them into these rivers, I think you're taking fly fishing, and you're ruining the sport when you do this. Okay, this is an opinion. If y'all had I don't know who the following is here, but I'll catch hate mail for this, and you can come at me any day of the week. I don't care who y'all are. There is no reason for a 12-year-old boy or a 30-year-old man to be introduced to a fish that shouldn't be there. You should have to earn your first fish. And I didn't know this going into it. I was the guy that caught the stock fish first, thinking I'm getting good at this shit. These fish are eating all my flies. But you step into a wild trout stream, it's a whole nother animal. These fish know. They hear, they see. Stockfish are opposite. They have been fed by Billy Joe at the hatchery for years, man. They know what people look like. They follow you. They come right to you. You know, I've sat there and watched stockfish not eat. A stockfish can be some of the hardest fish to catch some days, especially when there's 50 guys coming in on that same hole every day beating on them, right? These wild fish, what they do, you know what they do when you make a bad cast? They get the hell out of there. You screwed up. You need to move on. And that's where fly fishing should be. It should be a fair chase game. I think when you start dumping a bunch of fish in a river system like that don't belong, like, I can go off on this, and there's a lot of people who hate me in the 300-mile radius we're in, because I've kind of made this statement, right? And I made it clear. We fish public water a lot. We fish a lot of wild fish. And you look on my accounts, like, we don't promote any stock fishing. Will I take people to a stocked river? Of course I will, man. I will take a kid. If I know that this is what they need, I give people what they need, you know? Now, ask me how many times a year I do that out of the 250 days I'm on the water. I'm going to go with like 5, right? Like you show up with 2 kids, they're most likely on a wild trout stream with me. If you got 2 10-year-olds showing up, I'm taking those kids to a wild trout stream, most likely. Like you have to request that easy trip here. You know what I mean? There's a lot of places that offer that. You know, I could go off on
In
this.
South Carolina, we just call that fishing.
Yeah. I do believe that. Yeah, that's there's no
that was
way
good.
to do that in a minute.
No, that was good. No, that was good. That was even better. That was longer. Jeff, I feel like you pull his heartstring one more time.
Yeah, so we'll always like kind of. So Grant and I are the two fly fishermen here, and then we got Trey, just the traditional kind of spin rod guy or spin reel guy.
Bait caster, not spin.
Oh yeah, excuse me.
Hey, John made a good case for Trey's profession tonight.
It's true.
It's
true. But we always talk about we're conservationists as fly fishermen. You know, we're catch and release, that sort of stuff. Can you kind of talk more to like how like there is that kind of that like conservation heart of fly fishing and why it is kind of so like baked into the DNA of the sport?
So like, man, these are greasy, boy.
Hey, get greasy, brother. That's why you're here.
Speak from the heart. Okay. We want the honest truth.
So you want me to say it one more time for me so I can just rethink that? Because I could really go off and say some stuff.
We would love for you to go off.
Yeah, this could get real.
Yeah, we just kind of talk about kind of how like you view fly fishing kind of like going hand in hand with like conservation and like preserving public lands, access to public waters, that sort of stuff. You kind of touched on a lot of it there, talking about like the wild fish versus the stock fish and how that really is like a big thing. And until you kind of get into fly fishing or, looking at fishing rivers, that you don't really even think about stuff like that. Can you kind of just talk more into that?
Fly fishing and conservation definitely go hand in hand. I think there's a big group of us that practice catch and release fishing to help those fisheries do well so we can take our kids there. There's that side. Then you have organizations that are guys like backcountry hunting, angling.
Yeah,
like that,
backcountry
like
hunters and
group.
anglers. Yeah,
like that group right there, solid dudes.
Yeah,
right. They're fighting for anglers. Like if you watch how they move, it's very impressive. One of my buddies kind of put me onto them a couple years ago, and the way they fight for the public land use. And you got to understand where I'm coming from. I'm a kid from West Greenville that doesn't really play the public land thing, right? This is something that I had to learn when I got into this sport. It's very important that we have that public land. I've watched a lot of water disappear in the short amount of time I've been around, right? And I get the access to private. I've got clients that own private water out west. I've got friends that own private water here. My old boss owns private water. Totally get the business side of things. But the thing is, where's the cutoff when it goes public to private? Like, when do we stop giving, public land to private landowners? Like, when do we stop losing land? Because what's happened is we've begun to lose more and more as big money rolls into town. Like, a lot of these mountain towns don't know this yet, but like, wait till what, Greenville was a very small town. Okay. Very small town 20 years ago. Like, you didn't walk in certain neighborhoods. You didn't go to certain parts of town. You owned acres of land at a time, And now Greenville, like you didn't see Lamborghinis, you didn't see Ferraris. Like if you did, they were from Atlanta passing through. Now they're here. And if you watch the land Greenville's lost as a whole, like the whole side of Travelers Rest, Cleveland, Paris Mountain,
Gone.
it's gone, right? It's good for the community's economy, but what you're also doing when you boost that economy, these mountain towns don't know the money that can kind of just come in and take it all away from them. It takes one guy with a big wallet step into a small mountain town and scoop up a mile of private water. It is nothing. These mountain towns have a very, I hope they're on guard for what will come, you know, because I feel bad for some of them because they don't understand this cutthroat lifestyle of business that I was raised in before fly fishing. Fly fishing doesn't have that, you know what I mean? So we're going to lose more land before we actually open more up, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
I do not think they're fighting it right now on the Watauga River above Boone. American Whitewater has jumped in, and I mean, they are fighting a huge case over there right now. I mean, it's big. I don't even want to talk about it, really. That's not something I should speak on. But you're watching like a national thing go down right now. And then, I think it was New Mexico that opened up every waterway in the state. Over, like, boom, private water is done, guys. Everybody can get in the water.
I'm moving there.
So there's that aspect that could happen too, right? But the thing is, then I start seeing guys I know, like I don't want to see people that I know, like even my old boss or guys I know, like who I would consider competition.
Sure.
Like I don't want to see them lose their water.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like I don't wish nothing bad upon people. But what happens is you start stocking fish on top of wild fish, you're killing a resource that's already doesn't need man to help it succeed. It's already made it.
It's been there hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years since the 1800s. Them fish have been there. Why the hell are we going to jump in this thing?
Yeah,
it's almost like government, but we don't talk politics.
You know, if we took more money from the stocking and put it towards stream restoration, if like starting at the headwaters down in our areas and across the country, I think we'd have better water, better fishing. What people want is more, and what they need is less. That's what they don't understand. It sucks to say this to clients, but I always tell them this, like, I want to catch a lot of fish. And I'm like, man, like I've got that button on me, right? Like my guy, Ron, he knows, like I got this like little switch. I got like a switch where it's like, I can really turn it on and we can really catch the hell out of these fish, or we just catch them. You know, what happens when you turn those switches on, people think that's how it's supposed to be every day. And fishing isn't supposed to be catch. You should go get your ass whipped a couple times. You should see that 6-inch rainbow that's like right sitting on like this little fucker of a fish, right? Just little thing, man. Most people laugh at this fish, but that fish is smarter than half the humans walking this earth right now. That fish does two things. It mates and it eats. It doesn't do nothing else, right? So when you have this little 6-inch mater and eater that has done nothing for the past 200 years but survive, and you throw this beautiful cast that's 40 foot long, and he looks at that fly and goes under the tree and goes away. I think that is more relevant. That is more important for that angler to see than it is to catch that fish, because you don't deserve that fish, right? Like that fish is like that fish is really stupid when you break it down. Trout, like I respect trout, but if you really break down a fit, like trout are real predictable. They're kind of like they're going to eat, right? That's what they got to do. They eat and mate, right? But when you throw a bad cast at that fish and he runs away, it's something serious there for the angler to understand. And I think conservation, when you put your effort towards the streams, TU's kind of done a big thing where they represent wild trout and this and that. But I know TU organizations in our area that stock fisheries, you know, like Like they're putting stockfish in wild fisheries. And I'm gonna tell you, man, the hell I'll catch from anybody here, and this will be great. But I'm for it. I fight that fight all the time.
That's good.
I preach to everybody that calls me and says, well, I want to catch them. And I always tell everyone, it's like, man, can you listen? If you can listen, you can catch them. We'll put you on them. But these people that want this justification of, I want 600 fish in a hole, what they don't realize is that you're at a strip club at that point.
Yeah.
The girls aren't real. The girls aren't real. The girls aren't real.
Not that I've ever been to a strip club. I don't know.
Those girls drive more expensive trucks than y'all.
Yeah.
They aren't going to college. She's got $100K sitting in a shoebox in her house right now. This is a front. It is literally just a quick fix for the angler community. And when you go to these wild trout fisheries, like up in East Tennessee where I guide, and you see the reproducing brown trout in those rivers by the thousands, right? And I'm part of a guide association now where we're trying to help those rivers, right? Like we're actually putting effort to like check temperatures, check bug life, doing whatever we can to keep those fisheries stable. Because what's happened since COVID, a lot of these fisheries started to go down. A lot of conservation efforts are, to me, I wouldn't call it like a front, but a lot of it's just a bunch of BS and political shit.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've seen a lot of guys, I've seen a lot of private water get restored on government funding, right? Like me and you can't fish that water. They're going to charge people to fish that water. So there's so many different things going on with that alone, right? Like, and it kind of pisses me off. But I think as long as we stay ahead of the curve where we stand for something, it's okay. Are the trout streams in our region going to crash and burn? Man, it's very possible. But what's cool about wild fish is they always have a way to make it. Like floods, drought. Yeah, they know how.
It's like people from West Greenville.
Yeah, we can. That's it. That's it, man. Like, man, we're Greek. We come from this side of town, and you couldn't walk down this road we're sitting on right now 20 years ago. Things change. People change. I have seen in the last 5-6 years a progression towards wild trout, where you're seeing a lot of the guys that used to chase stock trout. Even on social media, Instagram is a big like fly fishing community, right? It's huge. It's big for everything. I get it. But you're seeing guys like that move towards fishing for wild trout, which is a very good thing. Sometimes it can be a bad thing because then you're, like we're not hot spotting, right? Like I don't want to talk about rivers. I named the Davidson earlier, but
That's the only one.
There's not a person on this 300-mile radius that knows that,
Doesn't know.
they know I fished the Davidson.
Yeah.
It's not a secret. But like when you put pressure on these wild trout streams, you've got to put the right type of pressure on it. Like you got to have some etiquette. Like there's some rivers we guide where you see a car, man, you better keep driving, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't.
You've done that to me. Riding with you, and you're like, we're going to fish it. We're not fishing here.
We're not fishing it.
Yeah.
And it's a self-code thing. It has nothing to do. There's no rule book, right? Like, but why take the water that I wanted to fish? This dude beat me here. Give him that respect that day and beat him the next day, right? There's 20 miles of river upstream. Let's just go there, right? Why go in on that guy in a wild trout stream? It just don't make sense. It's like the Davidson River. It's a wild trout stream, right? But there's an etiquette out there that's completely rigged. They think that you can sit shoulder to shoulder in that river, and that is not the case. We are not like some of these rivers I went to in Colorado one time. Holy crap, dude. There were 50 dudes within sight. If that happened on the Davidson, somebody would be, I'm telling you right now, if that happened on the Davidson, there would be a fight. They would not, it wouldn't be a thing. And everyone complains about Davidson being busy. It's not nowhere near as busy as some of these other rivers are. And I'm a firm believer that you have to, like, if you're going to fish wild fish, you got to do it with some type of code and etiquette. A lot of people call wild fish guys snobby. They call us arrogant. They call us cocky. Man, it ain't got nothing to do with that. I can shoot a deer in my backyard with a high fence in it and call myself a hunter, or I can go climb the fucking mountain and see if the deer's up there. He might not be there, right? The deer may not be there. I may have to go over another mountain to get to that deer, or another mountain. I may not shoot a deer for a month. I may starve, right? That's what wild fish and stockfish are. The stockfish are there, placed in front of your doorstep like an Amazon package. That's what it is. That's what a stockfish is. They have nothing. You eat them fish, man. You know, there's a lot of people who know me, and I'm going to tell you right now, stockfish comes into my hands, it's not a good day for that fish. He's coming home with me.
Yeah.
Right? If the regulations are correct.
Yeah.
If the regulations are right and I catch a stockfish,
Coming home.
he's coming home.
Coming home.
He's coming home. We're going to take him.
I knew, Jeff, that'd be a passionate one for him. That's why.
That's a good one.
yeah.
Are there much
I'll
like
just try to hit.
No.
No.
They were like, as I got into fly fishing, I was like talking about wild fish and native fish. They were kind of like ragging on me, like, you care about all this? I was like, hell yeah, I care about all this. Like, it's important. I remember the day that we were trying to float a river that I won't name. First time on a boat, catch a couple fish, and all of a sudden the whole thing's washed out with dirt.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's a feeder upstream, or I don't know, what do you call a river that runs in another river? Yeah, feeder upstream. And that's being, they're doing construction on it. It's probably funded by your tax dollar, and it ruined our day fishing this river. And then that's the same day that I learned, like I told my dad, yeah, I can fish a ditch. Watch me.
Yep.
It's called a creek.
That's
and
right.
It's just fine. And still is fun.
We caught the hell out of those.
Yeah, we got the hell out of those guys over there. Yeah, we did.
That was cool.
Well, the problem with this podcast is this is probably my favorite topic, and I could just go for 4 hours, but
No.
yeah.
I don't even know what time it is.
Yeah, don't worry about that. You're in the zone. All right. So anything you guys want to ask John before we kind of, go through the usual shtick of things? Like, I don't know, actually I'll start and then we'll kick it to Train Jeff. So I grew up in the Low Country, Beaufort. I live in Seabrook, not Seabrook Island, Whale Branch River. I don't know if you know it. Before 21 hits 17, like where you go to Charleston. It's the Low Country. It's marsh grass. I grew up on a shrimp boat, and we always called this the Upstate. I never thought anything about it. It was like Greenville and beyond is the Upstate. That's what it is. And when we went to the mountains, we went to Cashers, right? We went to North Carolina, but my dad would be like, we're driving to the Upstate. We started this podcast, and I always say at the beginning, we're live from Upstate, South Carolina. I didn't think anything of it. Like, I just was like, this is the Upstate. Now I live here. It is what it is. But a lot of people are like, Upstate? Like, what does that mean? And so I just always tell people, like, well, I assume it's like Low Country versus Upstate, difference in elevation. But today I did some research because I knew I was having you on. And there's no knock on you, because until today, I had no idea. And I grew up in the state. Like, I grew up here. I was raised here, as Trey likes to say. But do you know anything about that term, or does it mean anything to you?
I'm going to see what you have to say on this one first.
Okay,
There's a couple.
I'm going to give it away, and it's a very boring answer. So, like, but what do you think?
It's corner of the state.
Okay, so you think the corner's the up. Okay, so you don't think it's elevation. Okay, so in the 1960s, I forgot what the guy named was, but in the 60s, they wanted to rebrand the Upstate. So you had the Low Country and you had the Piedmont, right? Florence, Columbia, which included Greenville. And so this is into your thing of like Greenville blew up. You're talking the last 20 years. It was actually like blown out even more. It's like 1965. They were like, we have to separate ourselves from the capital. And so we need to like rebrand this. And like the only city here is Greenville, but we'll just call this whole region the Upstate. And then it took off. They got Michelin here, they got BMW in here, and like whatever. But yeah, I didn't know that. I just thought it was like height, Low country's low, upstate's higher. But
So they named it to rebrand.
to rebrand it.
Drawing more companies and businesses.
Yeah, look at that.
Great. That's the Greenville way,
That's
brother.
the Greenville way
It's,
right there.
it's ugly out here.
Hey, every time I fish with John, I drive 2 hours and I meet him somewhere in a parking lot by like a swimming pool or like a dirty gas station that doesn't have a bathroom. And I'm like, why don't you just live up here? And he's like, one, mountain people are crazy once they are. Like they tailgate the crap out of you. It's unbelievable. And two, he's like, my heart's in Greenville. And I was like, I respect that.
It is.
I respect that.
Born and raised,
Yeah,
man.
born and raised.
And I love my mountain people at the end of the day, but
No, mountain people are great, but man, I had a guy tailgating me from Tennessee yesterday. I was coming back. I pulled out at the place you told me to go, which I can't name, and I didn't think there was an actual pullout, so I pulled out a spot and I was like, "Oh, this must be where he wanted me to go." It was like 500 feet before you told me where to go. If I'd gone 500 feet, it was where I was supposed to go.
Yep.
But I parked. And I went out and I was like, all right, I'm using this new like map thing. I'm going to start like plotting everything. So I go out, take a picture, I upload the picture. I'm like, okay, I'm cool. And then I get my stuff and I'm like, I'm going to get run over by one of these dump trucks. So I'm like running across the street, all my gear on, 9-foot rod.
typical fly.
Yeah,
guy.
typical
out of state fly.
typical novice right there. I run across, I hit the bridge and it says turnout 50 feet. And I look and I'm like, the government put a turnout there and a sidewalk. The first thing I thought was, this must not be a good place to fish if the government's into it. But I fished anyway and caught fish. Anyway, I leave. And so I have to pull out and I'm like on a curve and I'm looking, you know, I got that old truck and like I pull out and the dude just tailgates me. So I'm like, what's up? Like, I got a 97 Chevy. I've been on mountain roads. So I'm like 60 and a 40. He's like, right up on me. I'm like, whatever. So I pull out on the slow pull out. He goes ahead of me, and I'm like, watch this. I got a 350 engine, so I floor it, and I'm tailgating the hell out of him. I get to the turnoff. He stops. Like 3 dump trucks pass. There's another one coming. He pulls halfway, so I can't get out. Stuffs his middle fingers out the road.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what license plate is this? I was like, yeah, that's Tennessee right there.
Watch out for the Tennessee
Yeah,
boys.
Tennessee
They're
boys.
real over there.
Yeah, they're real. Mountain
real.
folk. But I do love the mountain folk.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff. What do you got for him outside of fly fishing?
Oh, nothing. I had
Trey?
a fly fishing thing.
Man, I was going to say, it's not so much a question, just kind of reiterate what you were saying. One, love the soapbox that you were on, man. I thought that was really good stuff. I always find
Appreciate that.
for people who don't fish or are kind of wonder if they should get into fishing, I always told Grant, like, bad day fishing beats working. So I think just as important as getting outside is going outside, touching grass, get some sun on you versus even if you don't catch anything, it's just fun. So
Correct. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I got a fly fishing question for him.
Oh, yeah. Go.
All right, so I work for Patagonia, and Yvon Chouinard, the founder, huge fly fisherman. And on a podcast, he talked about one time for a year, he said, I'm just going to fish with one fly pattern. I'm just sticking to one fly pattern. I'm going to change sizes, but it's going to be one pattern. If you were going to do that same thing, what fly pattern would you choose?
For a year. It's going to be a blue wing olive, man.
Yeah, it's not going to be a heresy.
It's not going to be a heresy. It's going to be a blue wing olive.
Okay.
Blue wing olive. I think every fish that's a trout eats blue wing olives. I do.
Solid
Yeah.
answer.
that's the
Southeast or
It's really
nationwide?
I'll fish a blue wing to any fish.
Let's go to New Zealand.
I'll
Give
fish-
me a blue wing olive.
I wish I could say beetle, but they wouldn't eat that crap in the winter.
Oh, man.
So that's
I love what.
that's the equivalent of a Texas rig Cinco bass fish.
But basically,
Yeah.
oh, a worm is a good way to go.
I love when he tells me to fish a worm.
I mean,
always
when it's
get so
worms,
excited.
I will say worm is probably. You could argue worm is probably the best answer there. Worm is probably the best
Okay.
Greeny weenies, baby.
right now. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So we're the OK Podcast. We usually talk about our sponsors. We haven't because Grant's enamored of fly fishing, but our sponsors, BW Tax. He's a CPA from Greenville, not from Greenville. He's actually from Boston. He went to the Citadel. He's right down there on Broad Street. And funny question, and I think you'll appreciate this. We're moving back to California before my deployment, all that. And my wife says to him, he's asking about the move, like Grant's truck here. He loves fly fishing. He's got a gym. Like, why would you do this? And she says to him, you're from Boston. Have you like I know your wife's from Spartanburg, but have you never thought of living anywhere else? And he just looked at her dead in the face and said, no, Greenville's my home.
Greenville's legit, man.
So that's where he is. That's my facts about him. So what we're going to do is we're going to go around the room. We're going to give some facts. We're even going to have PJ, who maybe mic'd, maybe not. We can let him grab this mic, give some facts. And then we have you give an ad read. It doesn't have to be fancy. Trey will give you the instructions, but you'll just be like, hey, this guy's from here. He can do your taxes. But Jeff, give some facts about him.
The great thing is, even if you're, anywhere in the country, he can do your taxes. So it's not just South Carolina specific. He can do your taxes if you live in Tennessee or, upstate, downstate, low country, wherever you are, BW can do your taxes.
I like
for
that.
You.
Trey?
Man, I would say, I'm not going to say the company I did my taxes with this last year, but the initials
It's like not naming the river. You just don't do it.
Yeah, but the initials are HRB. So you can figure that out. So big headache. So the good thing about BW is it's a small company, very responsive. Like if you have a question, you call them, you're not going to get a hotline. He's going to pick up, or one of his guys is going to pick up. So
yeah, it's always good. PJ, you want to say anything about BW Tax?
Sure. He knows how to cut through all the government red tape, get your money back in your pocket.
I like that.
So we don't. The buttons aren't working right. I usually play the guest an example, but you just
play the trombone.
The instructions. Just give them the. Oh yeah, I can play the trombone. Hang on, number 6. Nope. Yeah, that's your prep music. Trey, give them a little bit of instruction.
All right. Hey, so usually on these ad reads, I'll say this. One of us does it, so the bar is usually very low. But usually what we have people do is they take these facts that we give you, and you just do either 5-second to 5-minute, whatever you want to do, just a quick ad read of why people should go to BW.
Yeah, and you act like you know them. Like what I love about BW Tax, and then you take everything we just said and you go into it.
Just whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. Whatever. Better off the cuff.
Yeah. Shoot it right now.
Yeah, shoot it.
What I like about BW Tax, you just call the guy. He answers the phone, gives you great customer service right off the rip. He can do your taxes anywhere in the country. Why not go with it? Why not go with it?
That's going on the soundboard. So we have 6 buttons here. We've had 4 filled up. We've had 12 people do the ad read. So only 4 people have made it. I think he's making the soundboard.
Right off the rip.
Right off the rip. Right off the rip. Jeff, you want to take him through the okay thing, maybe related to fly fishing?
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you saw kind of the beginning of the show.
The first time Grant did mess up a cast.
Get set up.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Yeah, like beginning of the show, you saw all of us kind of gave our like, okay. That's kind of our little tagline there. But yeah, so think about like the first time Grant like threw out that cast and like hooked up a fish, like kept it on the line, and you were like, okay, Grant. Like so just an okay, dig down deep, maybe give a little stank on it.
Little John. Y'all know
That's
where y'all got it from.
That's great. That is where we got it from.
Y'all put it real white.
Yeah. Okay.
He does the okay.
That's good.
That's Little John.
That's a little West Greenville right there.
What? Boy, that was when I was 18, brother. Like Little John was he got me to my girlfriend's house every day.
Yeah.
What are we? Walls,
we're like 10 months apart.
He
right?
got me. Yeah. Little John was when you were in the club. You were.
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
In the East Side Boys.
Yeah. And the East Side Boys. Yeah. And the Yin Yang Twins.
Yep.
Yeah. And Go DJ by Lil Wayne.
That was real.
That was helpful in high school.
That was.
All right. So John, first, can't thank you enough. You're the first guy to sit in the Equipal. My wife's Mexican. These chairs are from Mexico. We bought them on our honeymoon. I shipped them to Tijuana. I drove across the state line there in California, or country line, I guess. You know, what people would call the wall. There was no wall. And I brought these chairs back. We've never had a guest sit in the chairs. So you're the first, always the first.
Great podcast for me too.
Yeah,
my first time being talked to.
Yeah,
a lot of guys don't want to talk to me.
Yeah. You're a natural.
They just want to call me and go fishing.
Yeah, I feel like I overuse like wearing out your welcome, or I talk to you too much.
No,
but
this
yeah.
is great.
Yeah. Where can people find you? Where do you want them to go? What do you want them to do?
Just
Where do you not
Google
want
us.
them to go?
Yeah, Fly Fishing Greenville. We'll be up there. Haresearflyfishing.com. Hare as like a rabbit, HaresEar, flyfishing.com. John at haresearflyfishing.com, or just,
What's your Instagram?
Hare's Ear Fly Fishing.
Hare's Ear Fly Fishing like a rabbit.
That's it.
That was the first fly you tied, right? Wasn't that the story?
That was the fly that fish that I chased forever ate.
Okay, that was the first one.
The one that ate. Yeah, it's named after, the company is named after a fly the fish ate. That made me quit
your day job.
Now
you made it. So last question, and we'll let you out of here. So I put my mom on those 2 fish. Was really proud of it. It was fun. I wasn't proud of it because it wasn't a lot of great angling happening, but like her excitement, like when I would hand her the fish, her hand was shaking, right? And like the smile was so big. And I was
pure.
This is better than any fish I've ever caught. Actually, I don't know that I've ever made my mom smile this big, right? Like her hands were like, and afterwards she kept talking, I don't know why my hands were shaking. I was like, Mom, you just touched a native fish that no one in this world has ever touched, right?
Yeah.
That's a little John Conits in me right there.
Yeah.
But I lost my train of thought.
That happens.
Yeah. Sorry, I went off. I started thinking about guiding.
You were guiding?
I was guiding.
You're hired.
Yeah, I have no idea.
You're hired.
I had a point. there.
It sounded really good.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
get it post.
So I finish. She catches it, and she's like, do you want to fix? She's like, should I change? I was like, no, it's graph paper. You fish this water, go over here. She goes over, she catches the next fish. And she finishes. She's been fishing like an hour at this point. My wife's very pregnant. I'm like, it's time to go. You caught a fish. We're on a high note. Let's get out of here. And so, I go to put the rods up, including the Honda Accord behind you. And, I cut the fly off and I pull out, I got some fly company stuff I won't name. And I'm like, I don't like this company. John told me this company sucks. So I had a couple flies in that, dumped in another one, put the fly in, and I was like, here. She said, what's this? I was like, that's the first fly you ever caught a fish on. Because like in artillery, which the 3 of us are, like first time you pull the lanyard into the howitzer, you get the primer, you bite the swab. It's like a thing, right? And you're like, this is the first time. Like, is that a thing? Like, I was just like, I feel like keep this fly. You'll remember it.
It's a thing if the moment's special enough to make that decision.
All right,
Correct.
cool. All right.
Correct. I just, like that guy caught that fish the other day.
Yeah. Keep this fly.
Took the fly.
Yeah.
A lot. It's just, I think it's just it's a ceremony type.
So it's not necessarily the first one, but it's like
it's just an important one.
Yeah, it's an important one. Yeah,
it's an important one. You made it to be. She made it important. You made it important. So
there you go. All right,
that's
cool.
I like that.
You like that? All right. Haresearflyfishing.com, like the rabbit. Hare's Ear Fly Fishing on Instagram. It's super great account. The river updates are my favorite. They don't happen enough. I want more of them. They happen like once a month. We're live from the garage. I hate doing this. He always prefaces it with that, but go follow those guys. John, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right.
It was fun. This was fun.
All right, Trey, at this point of the show, it's over. John's leaving. He's still here. What should we tell? Yeah, I mean, we probably want people to listen to this. I mean, you got that amount of knowledge dropped on you. You probably need to know something.
Yeah, if you made it this far, Grant's mom, well done.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. Yeah.
All right, what episode are we on?
036.
This has been 036 of the...
Okay.
Oh, we almost forgot.
Yeah, we almost forgot, yeah.
Hey, we'd like to thank our guest, John, for coming on, for the time and questions and knowledge you dropped on us. Thanks again. Love to have you on sometime in the future. As always, let's thank our sponsor, BW Tax, keeping the lights on. This, I believe we are still powered by the Strength Co.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we are. Hey, look at the show notes
something's
below.
got to fund my fly fishing.
Look at the show notes below. You'll see a link to the Slack. Love to interact with you there. Go ahead and join that. Got any questions about lifting, life, you can reach out to us there. Find us on YouTube, like and subscribe there. leave a comment. If you go to www.theokpodcast.com, you will find all the social media links. Give us a like and a follow there. Did I miss anything?
Thanks. Nah.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Jeff. Did you miss anything?
Beautiful. Well done, Trey.
Verified.
We'll see you next time.